back of the rim. Garnett on the slam. Using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
No smooth ad intro today, I just gotta get this out of the way first. Thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. SeatGeek is the amazing app that provides you with the easiest way to buy tickets for almost any kind of event, which would most likely be sports related for you all. The app pulls tickets from all over the web and has them in one place to make purchasing one for your event really easy, and it also assures you'll be getting the best value for your ticket. While searching for your tickets, each one is ranked with a score from 1 to 100 that lets you know if you're getting a good deal or not for your purchase. On top of that, the app also provides you with the detailed view of what you would see from your seat before you even get there, which is extremely helpful. If you're interested in downloading this app, the links will be in both the comment section and highlighted in the description. If you're still on the fence, consider using my promo code DOM2K to get $20 off your first purchase. So normally this is a video that I would make on the second channel as a barbershop talk. This is definitely that type of topic. Try to stay more evergreen on this channel, but I feel as if right now, this series and this moment, I feel like this is kind of a landmark, so if it does end up going the way that it can right now, I want this video to be on the main channel with more exposure. Simply put, this Rockets Warriors series, this is a legacy check for both James Harden and Chris Paul. If you've been living under a rock, the series is now 3-2 and the Warriors lead. And last night, the NBA world just had a scare. We were all 100% convinced that Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. He looked back like he got kicked, he started limping, it was non-contact. Like, I think 9 times out of 10 that's a torn Achilles. But luckily, cause I don't know about y'all, but I just don't roll like that as an NBA fan. I don't ever want to see anybody, and especially not an all-time great, have his career altered like that. And it is just a mild calf strain. So not anywhere near as bad as it looked, because it looked like one of those things that might cost him like a month or something like that. But the way it's set up right now, if Golden State were to advance, he would probably be ready at the beginning or somewhere through the Western Conference Finals, depending on what happens with the Nuggets and Blazers and even this series. So he'll probably be back to play there in the finals if Golden State advances. Now, that's what we're here to talk about, because I don't know about y'all, but last night when it seemed for like that 20 or 25 minutes that we were kind of stuck in no man's land, when it seemed like Kevin Durant had torn his Achilles, it really felt like we were watching the end of a dynasty. The crowd was deflated, the body language for the Warriors was, for a couple of minutes there, looked kind of questionable. The Rockets were already surging back, being down near 20 points, so it really seemed like the Rockets were going to take advantage of that game and probably go and end the series on the home floor, because even before we knew it wasn't an Achilles, we kind of knew that KD probably was not going to return this series, and now we have that confirmation. But Houston did not get it done last night, which is one of the, like, I can't explain to you how much that game last night was like the Twilight Zone. It really was. They were already coming back, but Golden State, they reminded us with that core that core has won a championship before. It's been to the finals without Kevin Durant before, and they hung on, they pulled it out. Specifically, what was really interesting was that James Harden only shot the ball 1 time in like the last 8 minutes of the game. And so of course that sparked a small debate. It was kind of overshadowed by what was going on with KD, but there was the debate about, oh, James Harden should have taken over. Then some people were like, well, he was making all the right plays and letting his team do the work, and he didn't need to take more shots. I don't know, that's a whole different thing. What I'm now looking at is, okay, the one reason I was so hyped to see this series, even though I know Golden State was a better team than Houston overall, I was so hyped because of how things went down last year and how close Houston got to knocking off this team, this juggernaut. And then it's gut-wrenching that Chris Paul gets hurt and they don't get to finish the job, so a whole year passes. Fortunately, both teams are healthy enough to run it back, and you get to that specific moment last night where the dude who's been dominating not only this series but really the playoffs, he goes out. And he goes out with an injury that looks like it is very, very severe. So the Warriors' morale at that point was probably in question. So all things considered, that was Houston's game to win. That was the whole thing. When you consider everything that's gone on between Harden and the Warriors and just everything, right? That was the moment right there to kind of the changing of the guard. That was it. That was the entire thing, and it didn't happen. And now they're down 2-3. So here's what we're looking at. Now there is a maximum of 2 games left in this series. Kevin Durant this playoffs, more so than any other time, has really taken command of the Golden State Warriors offense. This playoffs, he's averaging 34 points a game. He's doing that on 51% shooting and 41% threes. So this is in a time where Steph Curry, he just dislocated his finger and he is having a terrible shooting series. And so the Warriors have just been going to Kevin Durant a whole lot. There's been a lot of ISO situations, a lot of mid-post situations. The Warriors will be, of course, running some action on like the other side of the court, so the defense cannot totally key in on Kevin Durant, and he's taking advantage this playoffs. Like, this is Kevin Durant's run with the Warriors. This is like the run. So as far as we know, he's done with this series, and here's the thing with the Warriors going forward without him. Of course, they've got options. We even saw the resilience, the championship resilience was absolutely there at the end of last game because they could have easily folded and they won a very crucial game. I think we can all agree they would have absolutely lost this series if they did not win last game. And going into the last potential 2 games, they have options. You still got Iggy there. You can still go small, you can do whatever you need to do, but their bench is not what it used to be. That's the part that people discount sometimes when they talk about Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, is that they did give up a lot of assets to actually have him go there and be a part of that core. But guys like Festus Ezeli, Leandro Barbosa, of course Harrison Barnes wasn't off the bench, but he was part of that supporting cast. A lot of that's not there anymore. Now you're looking at guys like Kevon Looney, who's he's glowed up in this playoffs, don't get me wrong, he's actually doing some great things out there. He's got a lot of intangibles. And then you're looking like at Alfonso McKinney, Sean Livingston, who might be, Kane Loves Cali mentioned like he might be close to retirement, is actually looking that way. Jonas Jerebko, like guys, the bench is just, it's not all it used to be. So Houston has played Golden State close all 5 of these games and they won 2 of them. And that was with Kevin Durant in the lineup. Guys, this has got to be it because we spent pretty much like the whole summer and throughout this season talking about how Houston would have knocked Golden State off and how they're the luckiest team in the world that Chris Paul got hurt and that someone always gets hurt. Well, guess what? Now it's Golden State. They still have a capable roster even without Kevin Durant, but Houston has been dealing with something much bigger than this. They're now looking at a situation where when they play in Game 6 and potentially a Game 7, the gravity is just much different. Golden State is not going to have that option of just a player they can just give the ball to and just say, go get buckets. The sets are going to be different. They're not going to have to worry about single coveraging Durant. Meanwhile, you're trying to cover screen action from Curry and Klay Thompson. It's a different game now. Houston's not missing anybody. So, okay, for Chris Paul, I've done what I could. I went through and debunked him being a choker because he's never really advanced that far in the playoffs before Houston. And I showed what I could. I showed how well he has performed in the playoffs because people totally ignore that. Of course, he's not having a great series right now, but I'm talking about, you know, throughout his prime and whatever. And I showed all the injuries that have happened, and he's been a victim for most of the time. He's had an unfortunate career. So there's a reason he's wound up on so many lists where they talk about players that are going to retire ringless. That's why Chris Paul is always at the top of those. And then there's James Harden, who he's kind of got a stereotype now for disappearing in the playoffs. True or not, it's a thing where people expect that Harden is not going to be as good in the playoffs as he is in the regular season. People hate the way he plays, and they will point to some concrete failures dating back. They'll go back to the 2012 finals and say, where was he? Where was he in his 6-man role? They'll go back to last year's closeout games. They'll go back to 2017 when the Spurs did not have Kawhi Leonard, and they were still able to close out Houston on their home floor, and James Harden had a terrible game. So whatever, right? Everything's in the past. The problem is, right now, Harden and Chris Paul have been presented with the best chance they are ever going to get to win an NBA championship while Golden State is around. For Chris Paul, this is probably the best chance he's ever going to get in his career because he just turned 34 years old, Father Time is undefeated, we don't know how long he's going to be effective for, he's not even having a great series right now. There's been times, last game, Game 6, there was times where he had a big man on him on the perimeter and he just refused to drive. It's like the age has caught up with him. James Harden is younger, so maybe he'll have more chances down the road, but that is of course pending what happens with Golden State because we don't know what Kevin Durant is going to do this summer. If he leaves, everyone's got a good chance. If he stays, then we're right back to square one where we are right now basically, when he's healthy. If the Rockets fail, if they lose this series in 6, and those two guys did anything less than played some of their best basketball, their legacy takes a hit. If they lose this series, period, their legacy takes a hit. If they lose this series and it's one of those situations where like Harden had in 2017 when the Spurs closed him out and he had a horrible game, or if either one of these guys have horrible games and they lose the series, their legacy takes a massive hit. This is the chance for two guys who really have a lot to prove it. For Chris Paul, like I said, people are going to ignore the great things he did in the playoffs, and they're going to look back and say, oh, he was great, but he didn't win anything. He didn't win an MVP. He didn't play in a finals. He didn't have a championship. They're going to look back on the surface because, you know, father time, well, not father time, but hindsight. When people look at things in hindsight, details get lost, and his playoff performances will get lost, and they'll only remember the failures. James Harden has a thing of he's had multiple MVP campaigns now, he's dominated the regular seasons, but we're still waiting for that signature Harden game. Harden does not have like that signature legacy game yet in the playoffs, despite always coming into the playoffs with like a crazy regular season. He doesn't have that yet. And for the talking that people have been doing this year, where they're talking about the best offensive player of all time, they're trying to move him up in the ranks. There was takes earlier this season where people were trying to move him above like Kobe and Dwayne Wade, and that's not popular opinion, but I'm just showing you where the conversation has been heading. This is his time. This is where the signature game has to happen. And don't think I forgot about the Warriors either, because those of you who follow my second channel, who follow the Barbershop Talks, you know we've had this conversation about how in 2016, after 2016, the spotlight kind of went away for Curry for a little bit. It went away from him because he invited KD to the team, and so he hasn't really had any serious under pressure moments that the Warriors could not handle. There hasn't been any adversity too big for the Warriors to handle or that they haven't been expected to handle. This right here is the first time that there's been anything close to real adversity to the Warriors since Kevin Durant came there. Because when Chris Paul got hurt, that was a pretty predictable outcome. That was a rather predictable outcome, the Warriors coming back to win both of those games. Other than that, they've kind of been flawless. So this is a time where it's not just even Chris Paul and Harden. Curry's got some legacy on the line here too, in my opinion. It's gonna happen earlier than I predicted, because I said that you know, the spotlight would go back to Curry if Kevin Durant left, and then people would look at Curry and say, okay, well, now that you don't have this crazy super team, what have you done? What are you gonna do now? And I predicted that if they didn't go as far or they lost or anything like that, people would start to put him in question a little bit more, because it's been all sunshine and flowers ever since Kevin Durant came there. So this is kind of a big moment for him too. He already stepped up last game. He had some important shots at the end there after Kevin Durant went out. But these games, now you're not going to have KD for the whole game, for possibly 2 games. This is pretty big for Curry and the Warriors as well. There's a lot on the line for both of these teams. So I'm rubbing my hands together like Birdman right now. I'm not even gonna front, because when Kevin Durant went out and I thought it was a torn Achilles, I actually sat there and felt sad for about 10 to 15 minutes, because that's an all-time great, and I'm just not trying to see anybody go out like that. So now that we know he's gonna be okay, he's gonna live, he's still gonna be KD, he's just not gonna be in this series. This is the first time I've really felt like something has been on the line for the Warriors in a really long time. This is the first time I felt suspense in the playoffs since 2016, so let's fire it up. Chris Paul, Harden, Curry, these type of situations right here, everything that's led to this Game 6 and possibly Game 7, this is how legacies are made. These moments, these are the stories right here. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot. This is potentially Golden State's whole dynasty on the line right here as well. We know that, right? What happened before, when I thought Kevin Durant had the Achilles, when I thought that's what it was, I was saying how he was probably going to resign with Golden State, because if his Achilles was popped in a free agency year, then who was going to want to be bothered with signing him if he wasn't going to be back to like the 2021 season, and who was going to pay him like a whole lot off of an Achilles injury? So I was saying this is how Golden State actually probably keeps Kevin Durant. That's what I was thinking, and then of course the future would have been up in the air from there. But still, I think if you guys been paying attention, it really seems like the rumblings have been that Kevin Durant is maybe going to do something different with his career this summer. Now, I have no inside sources. I've always just subscribed to the theory that it's a lot easier to leave the team after you've lost. Because if you just won an NBA championship, like say the Warriors go on and they win a championship and everyone's happy and healthy, how hard is it going to be to rationalize breaking up that team? The only reason Kevin Durant would leave would be for his legacy and to go rebuild his image somewhere, and that's going to be hard to do when you've got a perfect brand of basketball in Golden State and you like these guys, and I figured that'd be a lot harder to do than if you've lost, and especially if they've lost in the second round. So if Houston is able to pull this off and Golden State is a second round exit, and we were already talking about I saw Woj report that the Warriors were possibly looking at a seismic shift this summer in their organization. If that's the case, And James Harden is tired of dealing with the Warriors every year, tired of dealing with this juggernaut. You can do yourself a favor and break them up right now. I really think this loss would be powerful enough to put an end to the Golden State dynasty. Just from everything that's happened this season and all the chatter and the direction that things look like they're going, I think this is Houston's best chance and Harden and Chris Paul's best chance this year, and it really might help them going forward. Let's see how it all turns out.